Do you believe in ghosts? I know most people enjoy ghost stories, thinking of them as simply entertainment, something that only belongs in movies, books, or the imagination of people who scare easily. But tonight, as I sit here recalling what happened to me 1 year ago, I can tell you with complete honesty that this was no story made up to frighten children. It was real, it was terrifying, and it happened in a place we all think of as safe, my school. What was supposed to be just one more late-night study session for my final exams turned into an encounter I will never forget. They say schools are filled with memories, laughter, lessons, and whispers of the past. But some schools also hide shadows that were never meant to be disturbed. Last year, before final exams, my school extended the library's hours. Instead of closing at 5 p.m., it was kept open until midnight so students could prepare. Normally, I always left by 8 p.m., but that particular night, I decided to stay later. I thought it was the perfect chance to cram extra material without the distractions of home. It was about 6 o'clock, and when I packed my bag and walked towards school, the air was cool, carrying that strange mix of anxiety and excitement young students feel during exam season. By 7 o'clock, I was seated in the library, surrounded by books, notes, and highlighters. The stillness of the library was comforting at first. The silence made me focus better. No screens and no noise, just me and the soft scratching of my pen against paper. Hours went by without me noticing. Suddenly, I glanced at the clock and realized it was a little past 10. The strange thing was, the library was empty. Everyone else had already left. At 8 p.m., there were always at least a few kids lingering around, flipping through textbooks, whispering softly to each other, or yawning with exhaustion. But at 10, the large hall was silent. I was nearly finished with my last few pages of revision when I heard something unusual, a dragging, limping sound. At first, I ignored it, convincing myself it must be one of the janitors at the far end. But after 3 minutes of steady dragging, I realized two things. First, it wasn't the sound of cleaning equipment. Second, it was getting closer. The sound echoed unnaturally loud in the library. A deliberate thump, drag, thump, drag. My heart tightened. I froze, my pen slipping slightly from my fingers. "Who's there?" I called softly, my voice shaky, but no one responded. The dragging sound stopped, and in that moment, there was nothing scarier than silence itself. I rushed to pack my things, trying not to look behind me. The library door opened to a long corridor, and at the end of that corridor was the main exit leading outside. It should have been a simple sprint, but halfway through the corridor, I froze. At the far end stood a woman. Not a student, not a teacher, just a woman I didn't recognize. She seemed to be waiting. Her body stood strangely stiff, yet her head tilted slightly to one side, watching me. I forced myself to speak. "Excuse me, who's there?" The instant the words left my mouth, she was gone. Not like someone turning and walking away. She vanished. In one blink, she existed, and in the next, she didn't. I sucked in a sharp breath, my throat tightening. "I didn't see that," I whispered to myself, bargaining with reality. My mind screamed for logic. Stress, exhaustion, imagination, anything but ghost. But my gut told me something far darker. By the time I pushed open the school's front gate, relief washed over me. Fresh, cold night air filled my lungs. I felt safer. But as soon as I started walking down the street, I realized it wasn't normal. Our street was always busy at night. Shops stayed open. Groups of students walked around laughing. Cars passed every couple of minutes. But that night, it was empty. Completely and unnaturally empty. I lowered my head and walked faster, not wanting to look around. But then, I noticed something chilling. Another shadow on the ground. It stretched unnaturally long, sliding toward me, even though there was no one behind me. When I finally looked up, I saw her again. The same woman, walking unsteadily in front of me. Her movement sickened me, as if every joint in her body was bent and broken, yet she continued limping forward slowly. Her hair was messy, almost covering her face. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her hands and feet twisted unnaturally, splaying outward like broken branches. And still, she walked. She walked like she had all the time in the world, like she was waiting for me to catch up. My instincts screamed at me not to go near her. But the street had no alleyways, no open shops, nowhere else to go. Either I'd have to overtake her or keep walking closely behind. Neither option felt safe. Within minutes, I was only a few steps away. I could smell the foul odor as of damp clothes clinging to her body. My chest tightened with dread. And then, she stopped. Slowly, she turned her head toward me. Her eyes were pale. Her mouth hung slightly open. For seconds that felt like hours, she just stared. Then she spoke, her voice guttural, almost broken, yet strangely childlike. "Have you seen my daughter?" The question was so simple, yet so terrifying. It broke me. My brain couldn't find words. I couldn't say yes, couldn't say no. My whole body locked. Unable to think, I simply raised my trembling hand and pointed across the street, whispering, "Over there." The woman didn't question me. Limping painfully, she turned and walked in the direction I pointed. For a brief moment, I felt safe. But then, she stopped. Her head snapped back to look at me, and with a voice that echoed like it came from all directions, she screamed, "She is here." That scream pierced through my skull, shaking the air. My body gave up. My legs weakened, my vision blurred, and I collapsed onto the cold pavement. The last thing I remembered was her twisted form limping back toward me, her pale mouth opening wider as if she was about to consume me whole. And then, blackness. When I woke up, I was inside my home. My neighbor was sitting nearby, explaining that he found me unconscious outside. He carried me back, worried I might be sick. At first, I didn't dare tell him what I saw. I thought maybe it was a hallucination, a nightmare brought to life by exam stress. But then, he mentioned something that froze my blood. "Strange thing, lad," he said. "You collapsed right near the old Eden Hill Street. You know the story of Agatha, right?" I stared at him blankly. He continued. "Back in 1998, there was a woman named Agatha, 32 years old. She lived near this very school. She had a daughter who also studied here. The poor child died tragically in an accident on the playground. Ever since then, Agatha couldn't bear it. Locals say her spirit still haunts these alleys and the school itself, forever searching for her lost daughter." My stomach dropped. The woman's broken body, her twisted limbs, her question, "Have you seen my daughter?" It all made sense. For weeks, I lived in fear. I avoided late-night study sessions, avoided even looking at the school corridors after dark. But months later, while I was finally moving past the trauma, something unsettling happened again. This time, it was in broad daylight. I was passing by the empty playground after class when I saw a little girl standing near the swings. She wore the old-style uniform that hadn't been used since the 90s. She looked no older than 10. Her face was pale but calm as she tilted her head and asked me, "Have you seen my mother?" My blood ran cold. The cycle wasn't finished. The daughter was also looking for her mother. To this day, I don't know if what I saw was real or if my mind betrayed me, but I can't deny the details, the voices, the unbearable fear I felt. All I know is that their souls, mother and daughter, are still wandering, still searching for each other. And anyone unlucky enough to be caught in between becomes part of their endless game. So next time you're in a school late at night, in an empty library or deserted hallway, listen carefully. If you ever hear someone ask, "Have you seen my daughter?" or "Have you seen my mother?" run, because some questions are not meant to be answered.